There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. He played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. Good morning, my Park School friends. It's Miss Ilson. Today I thought it would be really fun if we could make an Aiken Drum picture together. So we're gonna make up a man who lives on the moon by making up the different parts of his body from different things. So the first thing that we're gonna make up is his head. And his head was made of, I'm gonna say that my Aiken Drum's head is made of a lemon. And his head was made of a lemon, a lemon, a lemon. His head was made of a lemon, and his name was Aiken Drum. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his body was made of, next, we're gonna make up what his body is made of. Let's say that his body is made out of a tree. And his body was made of a tree, a tree, a tree. His body was made of a tree, and his name was Aiken Drum. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his body was made of a tree, a tree, a tree. His body was made of a tree, and his name was Aiken Drum. Next, let's make up what his legs were made out of. And his legs were made, I have a silly one, of Twizzler candy. His legs were made of Twizzlers, of Twizzlers, of Twizzlers. His legs were made of Twizzlers, and his name was Aiken Drum. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. Next, let's make up what his arms were made out of. And his arms were made of, how about his arms could be made out of oranges? And his arms were made of oranges, of oranges, of oranges. His arms were made of oranges, and his name was Aiken Drum. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his arms were made of oranges, of oranges, of oranges. His arms were made of oranges, and his name was Aiken Drum. Next, let's make up what his eyes were made of. His eyes were made of apples. His eyes were made of apples, of apples, of apples. His eyes were made of apples, and his name was Aiken Drum. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his nose was made of, let's make up his nose. His nose was made of a grape. His nose was made of a grape, a grape, a grape. His nose was made of a grape, and his name was Aiken Drum. Next, let's make up what his mouth was made of. Let's say his mouth was made of bubble gum. His mouth was made of bubble gum, of bubble gum, of bubble gum. His mouth was made of bubble gum, and his name was Aiken Drum. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. Next, let's make up his hair. His hair was made of flowers, and his hair was made of flowers, of flowers, of flowers. His hair was made of flowers, and his name was Aiken Drum. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. Thanks for singing with me. I hope that you make up your own Aiken Drum. You can draw me a picture and you can send it to me of what your Aiken Drum looks like. And I'll include my email right here. I can't wait to see your drawings. Bye, my friends. I miss you so much.